Go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up the unit inventory module here. And the tool we're talking about again is the vehicle purchase orders. So what this is designed to do is help create a document that you can invoice or send to a manufacturer or whoever is providing these units, to get that information back into the system. It is a 1 unit per purchase order. You cannot generate multiple units on one purchase order. It's still 1 per. So if you are doing fleet purchases, it's probably still faster to use the multi-unit copy, especially if you have a template set up for the unit that you're trying to order, because then you can just use our multi-copy tool here in the file multi-unit copy and generate 6, 7, maybe 8 separate purchase orders separate stock numbers from one transaction. Whereas with the vehicle purchase order system, what we're going to be doing is, looks like one of our attendees is saying the audio is bad. Is there any way to telephone in? I'll go ahead and disconnect my line and rejoin to see if it's something with my audio. Andy, there is a dial-in question here as well if it's just your speakers. Let me go ahead and type in the number for you. Sorry for the hold up, guys. Just want to make sure everyone's audio is as legible as can be. So Andy, I typed in the number here, and then after the number, I'm going to give you the meeting ID as well that the phone is going to ask you to type in. Okay, so first is going to be the phone number you dial in, and then that second string of the 9 digits I sent you, that's the meeting ID. If you do a pound sign after that, it should get you all in. All right, feel free to put another question in there if there's any other issue, but thank you. All right, sorry for that, guys. So now let's get back to the vehicle purchase orders. So like I mentioned, if it's a single unit you're trying to purchase and get in there, definitely go ahead and hit the Tools button, and it's going to be up here at the top, Unit Purchase Orders. Okay, so this screen, for those of you who might be familiar a bit with parts and service, this is going to be very similar to the purchase ordering screen in that you have a, let me move this Zoom thing here real quick so it's not in the middle of our, there we go. So it's very similar to our purchase ordering screen in parts and service. You've got a not ordered for all of your purchase orders that have been created but not quite set to order yet. Then you have all the outstanding orders or items that potentially you're waiting on to possibly be shipped or transferred to your store. Fulfilled means probably the vehicle has arrived at your location, and maybe you're getting it stocked in and all that, through a check-in process. And then the posted to accounting is going to finally post the debit to inventory, either new or used, depending upon the unit type you're purchasing. And then, of course, offset to either your floor plan payable or whatever. If it's a cash account, you're doing a direct cash transaction, you can do that and directly hit your checking. But generally, some sort of accounts payable or floor plan account is going to be the offset for that. So once you go ahead and post that PO, it'll generate those transactions for you, similar to if you were to buy that unit in normally and you would use the unit inventory. Oh, can't exit that or minimize that. Like you would be doing a purchase entry through this financial transaction screen. So same process, except basically you're going to be getting a document alongside this that you can send out and invoice, your particular order. So let's get back in there. And then lastly, we have a voided screen. So any purchase orders that you created and then want to just go ahead and scrap, you would void it with the status. Lastly, we do have a customize button here, which is going to allow you to free choose all the fields available here. So maybe I'm not concerned with, let's say, the total cost and the status. You can remove those or add them as you see fit to make a bit more room here in this screen. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create a brand new purchase order from scratch. We'll go ahead and buy it into inventory. You'll see that it's a pretty straightforward process, and then we'll go through with any questions. So the first step is going to be, who are you purchasing from, right? So that's going to be the entity selected here on the top. Well, let's say we're buying directly from Forest River, the manufacturer. So I'm going to go ahead and search them up. Hopefully you don't have duplicates like we do in our demo environment, but pick the most relevant one, hopefully the same Forest River that you're putting your warranty claims against, so they're all stored against one entity. Next, you have the offset to your purchase entry, which would be, your floor plan company, or who are we flooring this with. So generally, you're going to do the search here. I think I have a floor plan company called Griffin's Floor Plan Company. There it is. Perfect. Now, if I had a default, GL account tied to that floor plan company, we could have it auto-populate here. Otherwise, I'm just going to use our chart of accounts 3200. That's our new unit floor plan. 3200 right there. Okay, alternatively, you can do a search here. I like to do by account type. You can type in NF for new floor plan, and that'll show you all the floor plan accounts that you have tied to that account type. So we're just going to use new unit floor plan here. The entity reference number, this is basically going to be our invoice reference number. We can go ahead and key that in. Generally, the PO is going to auto number next time you save it, so we'll go ahead and let that auto populate or fill it out at the end. We'll go ahead and leave it blank for now. But now what we want to talk about is the actual stock number. So you have a few options here. Let's say you actually have this stock number already created in Infinity in the unit inventory module. You could go ahead and type that stock number right in, and when you tab out, the system's going to populate it. Now, I've chosen a stock number that exists, stock number 1234, and it's going to ask me, do I want to order this stock number or copy from it? So for those of you who have used our copy functionality or have templates in the system you copy from, that's great. It definitely expedites buying inventory into the system. So let's say this 1234 stock number was in fact a template. So what I actually want to hit here is no, because it's just going to copy the year, make, model, fuel type, vehicle type, etc., and leave mostly the VIN and all that separate for me to fill out because that's unique. But if I'm copying from, it's nice because then you can standardize a lot of the features of that template onto this new unit without having to rekey them in a second time. Otherwise, if it's this exact stock number, let's say stock number 1234 is a brand new unit that I've created in the system specifically for this purchase order, I can hit yes, and it's going to order that stock number. So the question really here in terms of the stock number you're choosing is, A, does the template or stock number already exist? If so, you're going to want to type it in and use one of these two options. Now let's try something different. Let's say I hit no here, and it's just going to copy my 2014 Rockwood 2604. But let's say I back my stock number out and I make a completely new stock number. As you can see, I kind of randomly punched that in there just to make sure we're not accidentally picking up a stock number that exists. When I tab out, the system's going to tell me the stock number I entered does not exist. But that's okay, because now I can go ahead and continue and start typing in the actual information. Now, as you can see, it got rid of my number. That's fine, because now is not the time for us to generate a stock number. We're just creating this record. And when we fulfill the PO, right, when the vehicle actually arrives, that's when we assign it a stock number. So I mainly just keyed in that bogus stock number there just to clear out the field, just so we could start over. So I'm going to start with a 2019. Let's just do a Cedar Creek Daydreamer. Okay, I can pick my vehicle type here. I'm not sure if that's a fifth wheel or not, but let's go ahead and say that it is. I can choose my fuel type. Doesn't need a fuel type if it's a fifth wheel. Basically, just going to go through floor layout, body style, customer number. Customer, if it's already owned by a specific entity in the system, or not necessarily owned, but let's say you are building this unit to spec for a particular deal or customer, you can tie that entity number in here so that it's stored there for later when you're ready to do a deal with this unit, so that that customer number is already tied to that unit. But otherwise, the rest of this information is pretty straightforward. Our cost, this is going to be our purchase price. For those of you who are inventory buyers, when you do a purchase entry, and you take the base purchase price, not including accessories, we would put that there. So let's say this Cedar Creek Daydreamer. I'm just going to look one up here. I know they're all pretty much, an older model, so a new one isn't really going to make sense. But let's just put a base price of 20 grand in here just to start. Okay, up at the top right, we do have some expected delivery dates. So when are we expecting this to arrive? Well, maybe if it's not something too custom and we're just simply sending them a purchase order, then hopefully we can get it delivered within the next 2 weeks or so. But if it's something custom that needs to be fabricated, obviously our expected delivery date could be a bit longer. But I'm just going to go ahead and put in the 8th here. And I'll leave my date ordered and date received to be populated when I change my status here. But let's talk about a bit about the accessories. So you can see here, because I copied this unit from a, it started with a template and kind of moved on. It does have a prep trailer, travel trailer, PDI charge, it looks like, sitting on the unit. So whether I want to keep that prep, maybe that's something that I automatically add to every vehicle purchase amount. So let's say we bought the unit for 20 grand, but when it arrives at our dealership, we do a bit of prep, and we'll say prep fifth wheel just to make it match our vehicle type. Well, now, where do I want that prep charge going, right? So it's going to cost us as a dealership about $258 in labor and parts to prep this unit up. But we probably don't want to put it into the purchase price field, because that's just going to sum into our purchase price and look like we actually paid $20,000, $258.04. In reality, we probably want to put this into the additional costs field, because then we're going to be able to reflect, hey, this is something that, yes, we purchased it for this price here, but our additional PDI costs amounted to this. Now, this would be this prep work coming in as an accessory. If you're actually doing a work order to prep this unit, an internal ticket that's going to do PDI against the unit, you would not need to do this. Simply create the work order, prepare the parts, the labor and all that, and charge it against the unit, and that cost will automatically happen and hit the add-ons and repairs of that unit. So really, this prep accessory code isn't really relevant to this. As a matter of fact, most accessory codes that are going to be from the VPO screen are obviously coming factory installed or pre-installed. So let's just say we didn't include a hitch from the factory. Well, hopefully I can spell it right. I'm just going to put a simple hitch example on here. Fifth wheel, hitch, hitch install. Let's say that hitch came from the factory, listed at 150 bucks. I'm sorry, cost 150 bucks, listing price or listing sale price of that 175. Now there is where something I could put it into the additional costs field to, be itemized outside of my base cost, but still reflect that this unit has $150 of additional value included into it coming from the factory. Okay, so I'm not going to get too complicated with the accessories, but as you can see, you can just fill out more than one. And let's say I start typing another one, you'll just see that it starts to continue filling it out. I was just typing in a bunch of letters here to show you can continue it going all the way through. So if you don't want an accessory, just highlight it, hit the delete key. Okay, so the GL account here on the far right of the accessory is the account that we're debiting that value to. Okay, and the reason for this account is as follows. So let's say this is a this is a hitch that we're plugging in. Well, the hitch really needs to hit the inventory account of that unit. Our new vehicle inventory is GL account 1200, so we'll make sure that that offsets there. Okay, but some of the questions I get on this transaction field is, well, why would I use things like destination charge, comment, MSRP? Generally, you're going to see the additional costs for accessories added from the factory that are itemized out from the purchase price, but you also have an item for destination charges. Maybe we want to itemize freight separately to show that we paid some sort of freight amount, and it's going to be a debit. So obviously, if I'm doing a destination charge and we call this, destination charge, freight for delivery. So maybe the Forest River is charging us a additional 250 bucks to deliver this unit. There's no list price associated with that because it's freight. It's not being resold. So we'll just go ahead and say that that 250 is going against destination charges. And then we can offset that to some sort of payable like 2100. And then continue forward with the freight charges there, and go through accounts payable to show, hey, the Horizon Transport Company that we used is, accounts payable owed to them for the delivery of this unit. So otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We'll just go ahead and leave the hitch on here, but you can see some of the varieties of options you have with these accessories coming from the VPO. Okay. Now, if a unit has standard accessories, maybe you've got a template with some accessories marked as standard. If you do include standard accessories, the system's going to populate that unit's accessories that are assigned to standard. But if that particular unit doesn't have any tied to it, you're not going to have any populate. So down here, we can do a markup of the MSRP off of the purchase price. So let's say we do a 28% markup. Now we'll see our base MSRP. Here's our accessories MSRP. That's coming from the list here. And then we just see our total cost. So the final cost of this unit is the $20,150, offset to a floor plan account here, the 3,200, and Griffin's floor plan company that we're seeing here. All right, so this all looks pretty good. What we want to go ahead and do is mark the transaction as ordered. So if I hit the ordered box here, you're going to see it's going to ask me a few things. Do I want to use the next stock number in the list? So if I hit yes here, entity number that I entered is not on file. It's probably my floor plan company one here, so we can change that too. I believe floor is the right floor plan company. There we go. Okay, so you can see it auto-generated a stock number for me, PO30, and that's coming from the actual purchase order. So this is my 30th purchase order that's been created in the system. So you can see it's auto-populated that with that stock number. When I actually fulfill this order, it's right now ordered, but when that unit arrives and we mark this as fulfilled, it's going to ask me if I want to use this stock number or change it. So you can go ahead and leave it the way that it is now. It's generally going to be something that's done as the item gets, booked into the dealership, that you'll actually assign it the correct stock number, because you may have one in mind now, but another unit could arrive prior to that, and you kind of want your numbers to be as sequential as possible. So just go ahead and leave it with a temporary stock number for now. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and save. It's ordered. I'll go ahead and close out of it. And then let's go look up the unit that has been created alongside all the other information. Okay, so let's we'll come back and look at that ordered PO and do the remainder of the process as well. So let's go ahead and close out of the PO screen, and let's type in our stock number, PO30. So as you can see, we actually have the unit in stock. Here we've got our purchase price that we plugged in, our flooring account transaction. Here's an estimate associated with our additional costs. Everything else is plugged in. We've got a PO number, where the PO is coming from. So quite a bit is filled out. Obviously, we still need the VIN. We could put the status possibly as on order. And you can see it's checked off as on order, and the system even took our expected delivery date from our purchase order. So we stated that, yes, this should arrive on March 8th, and that's where that's plugged in. So you can see a lot of this pre-populated for us, but again, this unit has not booked into the dealership. It hasn't arrived. So we haven't generated any accounting transactions except for our estimate, because truly this hasn't arrived yet. So you can kind of see how it pre-populates all this. So you can build units from this PO screen if you find it faster than doing it through the normal methods of just hitting the add button down here. But let's go ahead and finish the rest of the process, and then we'll answer any questions related to it. But as you can see, it's really got one function, and that function is to build the units for you based on the specifications of our purchase order. So back in our purchase ordering screen, you can see all of the not ordered POs. Well, we're not going to find our purchase order number 30 in here because we are actually marked ours as ordered. So if I come down in here and hit the ordered button, right there is our PO number 30 to Forest River, when it was created, who created it, when it's expected to be delivered, the order date, today is the order date as we selected the status of ordered, and you can see the remaining information related to this unit. So let's go ahead and hit the O over here, which is just going to open it back up, and you can see the rest of the information here. So I did see Andy's question here. The total MSRP seems to be a little bit higher than it should be. Let's see if this is the way that I'm marking this percentage field. So let's see if it's something like this, where it needs to be 0.28. Yeah, that was my mistake. Andy, I was typing it in as a full percentage here. It's actually a decimal percentage markup. So if I want to mark it up 50%, it would be 0.50. So that was my mistake. I was using the field as a full percentage here rather than as a decimal place markup. Similar to how the price categories, let's just show that real quick so you can see another familiar setting with that. If I come back to unit inventory, your price categories. You can see here how it's in a point format, 0.35 to do a 35% markup or 0.25 to do a 25% markup. So I was just using the field incorrectly. So good catch on that. I didn't even see the price go up until I saw your question. Okay, so back to our unit purchase orders. Let's get back to number 30. We'll go to ordered, number 30, and there we go. So let's say a couple days have gone by and we received that item. Okay, that unit showed up at the dealership. It's March 8th. It showed up right on time. Oh, I didn't save it earlier. That's why I put it back to the. There we go. Okay, so let's say the unit's arrived and we're ready to assign it a stock number. So let's go ahead and flip this to fulfilled. And when I tab out of the field, it's going to say, oh, the unit's already open. I can't make changes to it, right? Because we're actually attempting to adjust it. So we can't have the unit pulled up currently. So I'm going to search up a different stock number, 1, 2, 3, 4, just to kind of refresh our record and get out of it. Now let's go back to the purchase order screen. So we'll go back to ordered, number 30. Now we should be able to mark it as fulfilled. And that's where our box pops up to let us know, what do we want to do? Do we want to use our next auto-numbered stock number, or do I want to type in my own? Well, sequentially, if our stock numbers are accurate and our next available number is truly our next stock number, I can go ahead and just leave that one, hit save, and then it's going to populate with the next number available in my stock number list. Alternatively, like we said, we could just type one in there, and that'll be the new stock number going forward. But at this point, it's been fulfilled. At this point, you probably have an invoice number from Forest River, right? Or how this would show as the flooring transaction, or how we purchased. So what we're going to want to do is go ahead and plug in here maybe the invoice number from Forest River. I'll just do INV for invoice, and let's just say this is our invoice number. Perfect. We'll go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to go ahead and post this to accounting to generate our transaction. So we'll hit post to accounting. I must fix the correct following accounts before posting to accounting, my additional cost account. So that's telling me my unit actually doesn't have a additional cost account. So in case I am posting any additional costs here, which is what it's trying to use right there, you can see it, additional costs. Since that GL is not on that unit, we can't use that. So probably what I'm going to have to do, and this would be fixed if I were using my templates correctly. If I had a Cedar Creek Daydreamer in the system that actually has a, all the GL accounts filled out on it, you'll see here, if I go ahead and drop that stock number into my search, you can see the additional cost account is not there. So that's why. So if I have a template that I'm copying from, it is important to have all the GLs filled out. That way, anytime you're doing this process, it's as streamlined as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and populate the additional cost account with just the regular cost account. We're not itemizing out any additional costs. We're just going to use the same one. Now, I should be able to go back to my unit, tools, unit purchase orders, back to ordered. It's not in ordered anymore. Remember, we fulfilled it. So now we'll find it here. I've got my invoice number, my correct stock number. Now I should be able to post to accounting. The transaction has posted to accounting. This PO is done completely. We can print out a copy of it if we need to. The other two buttons on here, you can set approvals. So possibly you have approvals set that your buyers can only generate purchase orders up to a certain dollar amount from a certain vendor. These can all be set up in the inventory module, in unit inventory under the approval section. And then you can give permissions to certain users to purchase or approve transactions over a certain dollar amount. So maybe you have a manager or an inventory manager here that will only approve or has to approve POs over $30,000 for them to be applied. And those can be set up and then done on a PO by PO basis. Then job info would be maybe if there's an additional third party doing some work on this unit before it arrives at the dealership, you can populate that with maybe the sublet number or possibly job number tied to some of that third party work. Okay. And it looks like it did kick out my MSRP markup. You're correct. So Brian Edwards mentioned the MSRP markup did kick out there, which it did. But let's see what it populated on the unit, because I want to see if it's just this screen that got cleared out or if it did populate over there. So let's take that stock number, the 1397, and go see what it created. So I'm going to come down here, 1397. All right, so here is our Cedar Creek Daydreamer that we created. There's our stock number, the date it was arrived, our purchase date. It did generate our accounting transactions, both our purchase entry, our additional costs, and our total cost. And it did floor correctly to my floor plan account, GL 3200 and 20,000. And it did kick out my price markup to the MSRP. And I'm wondering if that's tied to the fact there is no price category with this unit. With that fifth wheel category, usually you have a price category per type, and since I don't, it may not have come over. But I do want to address on the VPO why that one, using it in the one format gives that crazy $500,000 number, as well as, using the percentage, it did populate, but it didn't come over on the unit. So I'll have to look and see why that might not have come over, but I'm thinking it's tied to the fact that we don't have a price category type for our fifth wheels. But easily resolved by just coming over here and plugging it in manually, our markup. We probably need to standardize it so it's the same format as it is here, so it's not just a decimal markup there, because that can be confusing. So good catch there. I'll make a note to have our team address that. So at this point, we've finished the PO, aside from looking at a printout copy, which we can do. Actually, I don't have my PDF writer set up here, but feel free to generate one and print one to take a look at what it looks like. It's going to look like our standard purchase order that you'd be seeing in parts and service. Same document, except instead of parts that we're showing that we are purchasing from a vendor, it's a unit transaction. But this unit is done. It has been bought into inventory. There is a flooring sitting out there with it. So what I would expect to find is under that floor plan company, as if I were the check writer or going to go clear the floor plan, we should be able to find that transaction tied to that floor plan company. So just real quick, we will do a write checks and drafts, pull up our checking account, add a transaction up to our floor, entity here. If I change my check type to floor plan, we should have all of our floored units here. And here we have 1397. There is our $20,000 floor plan, total cost showing our additional costs there, our hitch that came with our unit, but there's our floor plan transaction. So the VPO does the financial side of everything for you, following the steps, in order of creating the order document, ordering it, fulfilling it, and then posting it to accounting. Only when you post to accounting do these transactions get generated for the unit. And you can see it did reverse out that original estimate saying, well, we were estimating $150 of a hitch, and then when it came in, it did take the full price of that accessory. So aside from the weirdness on the markup, which I'll definitely make note of, everything else came through okay on the unit. Looks pretty normal to me. And at this point, we could move on to our next vehicle purchase order by just going in here and creating a new one. The only thing I didn't do on the one that we created was copy from a unit. So let's say we bought the exact same unit. We bought another Cedar Creek Daydreamer from Forest River. So I can start the process again, put Forest River on here, floored with the floor company, auto-populated my GL there. But now let's say I type in that old stock number we just created, right, 1397, and I hit enter. It's already on a PO, and I can't have two POs for the same unit, so it's not going to let me. So again, this stock number is mainly intended to copy from a template, not a unit that has been ordered. So, wanting to show that yes, a ordered unit is a good example of something to copy from because you may have ordered it frequently, but the best process to make these POs flow, as you saw when we ran into the issue with the GL account not being on the unit, that it's kind of hamper this process. So the best way for purchase ordering to work is to have an idea or possibly a record of a unit that has already been ordered in the past that you're reordering, and creating templates of those. And what I mean by templates is if I do a search in my system, you do have a template search down here at the bottom. And if I say template equals yes, now it's going to show me all the templates in the system that aren't real units. So what I mean by a template unit is if I pick one of these, I'm going to just pick up this Bayliner here. No, I'm using a boat example, but you get the idea. A template unit doesn't actually have financial transactions. So I do have a purchase price here, but it's not actually in accounting. It's just simply a template unit. And if I come over here to the, let's say one of our boat tabs, you can see that since this box is checked off as template, the system isn't going to require accounting transactions. It's not going to be available to sell on deals, but what we can use it for is to copy from. So if I grab that stock number here, the Bayliner 01, and let's say we're ordering another one that's exactly the same, except maybe there's some different accessories, but for the most part, the year, make, model is correct. All the boat information we have here on the marine tab, like the fuel type, the port location, the condition, all of that is pretty standard. Then if I come in here and do a new purchase order, and I populate that stock number here, you can see it auto-populated with all this information. Because my GL accounts are already on there, if I just come in here and say, I don't know who would be a good company to provide a boat, so I'm going to use Forest River here. Again, sorry. If I put all this information in and hit ordered, you can see that it didn't pop that error with the post to accounting or anything, and I could go through the remainder of this process to fulfill this, use the next stock number in the list, and then post to accounting. Now, of course, it's just going to use my base cost as I left it, but you can see it's already posted or saved, and now I have a new Bayliner in it with the next available stock number. So I'm guessing it's 1398. So if we come back into unit inventory, 1398. Oh, I must have used a different one instead of the 1398. So probably the next available after the 1397. So, but you can see here that when you have all those GL accounts on the unit, sorry, let me get this out of here. Coming from that financial tab in a template, it's much easier to get all that information locked into the PO and ordered quickly. If you're constantly having to go update the unit you copied from or creating the record from scratch, it can be cumbersome. So it works best if you are on a template system in terms of how you buy your units into inventory. And from all of the on-hand experience I've had traveling to dealerships, it's a very good method to get the inventory department consistently using the same information so that your reporting all looks accurate. You're getting the same make and model with the correct spelling, the correct syntax, we're using the correct GL accounts. It definitely helps things, get a bit easier. And if you're already doing that template process, great, the POs kind of fall right into place there and work just fine. And I would definitely suggest if you're curious about more information in getting into a templated system for building your units, let us know, because essentially when you search up this templates record like this, you'd like to see basically a template for almost every single unit that you've stocked at least once, or it's not a one-off purchase, because then ordering or even just general copying is a lot easier than having to type all the information in from scratch again. So definitely let us know if you have other questions on that. We can set up individualized trainings, to go through that process to get you create some templates and how to copy from them and all that. But as you saw, the vehicle purchase ordering moves very quickly if you're just copying from some cookie cutter templates that you have that are pretty perfect. And obviously you can customize them per order with the accessories that you're buying in, or some of the differences in the financial data between the template and your new unit. Okay, so I think we went through the process pretty straightforward. I am going to touch base with our team to see the issue with the % markup not populating correctly. So again, thank you for pointing that out. I have another question here from Andy. It states the templates all had different statuses. Shouldn't the status be template? Andy, you're actually 100% correct. This is our demo environment, so I can't say a lot of this data in here is accurate, but Yes, you are correct. So two things can happen on a template unit. The key here is this checkbox. This is going to identify internally to the system for accounting purposes and for sales purposes that this is a template unit that should not be sold. This status here isn't going to stop me from using it as a template or anything, but for kind of housekeeping purposes and keeping things cleaned up and simple to use, yes, I would make the status of your template units all template, as well as checking that box. So that makes the search really easy to do, right? Because if I do a search here and I say template yes, and let's hope that some of these statuses are correct. If I search up a status of template, here would be my listing, okay? So let's say maybe one of your users doesn't know about that search templates down here at the bottom. It's usually set to no, so you got to be aware of that and change that, because if I have this set to no, even if I search for a status of template, it looks like we do have some units marked as template but not checked off as template. So as you can see, anytime these two are not, in disconnect, it kind of is confusing. So I would go with it how Andy stated. Make sure your template units have both a status of template and they're checked off as template. And I'm just going to kind of do some housekeeping on our demo environment here and do that same process. So search them up and just check each template off. So. But good call, Andy. That's definitely one of the easier ways to identify it, because one of the benefits to that is, let's say you have a user who's not as familiar with this template box and they don't realize they have it open. If I search up all my units here, oops, let me do a clear. I'm just going to do sold no. It's very easy to see if a unit is in this crazy pink status, because it's a template. And hopefully our users are, at least going to check and see before they go to add this onto a deal or go to work on it or something. They're going to see, oh, this isn't a real unit. This is in fact a template. So yes, I definitely agree that it should be both a status of template as well as the checkbox. But the status, again, and then just as a good overall kind of reminder for this, is the status is really to help your staff understand, where the vehicle is at in terms of either on the dealership or in the sales process. But internally, Infinity is really looking for that checkbox to make sure that this unit isn't counted as a real live unit. Because if that template checkbox isn't checked, but the status is template, you bet that this unit's still going to show up on some sales reports and your inventory salesman reports, and they could potentially grab this unit and not realize that it's not a true unit. It's just simply something to copy from. So, but good call on that, Andy. That's definitely something to be aware of. I would always make sure that if you have templates created in your system, you use them both in tandem, both the field and the status. All right, I'm going to leave the session open here for kind of our remaining 20 minutes that we've got, or 15 minutes. And if I don't get any, additional answers, I'll go ahead and close it down, because I want to make sure the webinar is nice and trimmed up for getting posted onto the website. But I hope this was informative for those of you who might find it very useful. Again, it's pretty straightforward. There's not touching anything other than the accounting, the same way that creating these purchase transactions would, through the create accounting transactions button. So the process shouldn't be too different than what you're used to, but the advantage of doing a vehicle purchase order is you get a document. Now, I will state some of the complaints I've had in regards to the VPO system is that you cannot order multiple units all on one PO. And currently, just due to the limitations of how it's designed, it is intended for one unit at a time. And if you are doing fleet purchases of multiple units, again, my recommendation would be to do something like this: do the multi-unit copy, find the unit you want to copy from. Maybe we're using our templates as an example. So maybe I want to copy from this Chevy Impala template. So I could do 100-551. There's our template. I want to copy from that. And then let's say I have an individual VIN for that unit. I have an individual for this one. And let's say I type out all my VINs. Again, I'm just fat fingering these. Let's just do some colors. Okay. Now that I've got all that, I can hit auto assign. The system's going to use my next available stock number, and then I can hit OK, and now all of those stock numbers will be created. So it's telling me all my VINs are wrong. Well, I'd hope so. I certainly guessed there. But now I should have a unit record for each of those stock numbers that I've created. So 1400, 1401, 1402, etc. So much faster process to copy from a template for a large bulk order like that. And that would make it the easiest. Andy has another good suggestion here. It says best to create one from the template and then multi-copy from it so that you do not have to go into each and change the status. That is correct as well, because when you copy from a template, every unit you copied from, it doesn't put it in the template status for you. It just leaves it as blank, so you'd fill out. So I'd go ahead and say these are ready for sale. So it is something you do have to manipulate per unit, but it is easier than hitting add, one at a time and doing each of them separate. But again, Andy's pretty familiar with these processes, so he definitely has some good recommendations there. But again, I find that getting inventory or your inventory buyers into a familiar format with these templates can help them from having to create these records from scratch. I highly recommend doing so. It definitely expedites the process of getting inventory in quickly, especially so you can get those floor plans into the accounting system as soon as they are actually live. That way you can get these units paid off quickly without any sort of interest, if they're selling quickly, I should say. But yeah, let us know if you want any additional training on maybe setting up templates or how to go about that whole process. We can definitely do a individualized session. And again, like I said earlier, these webinars will be posted. So if there's anything you'd like to review here. Now I'm going to go ahead and look up to see the next available webinar here. I believe it's next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. It is. It's next Tuesday. And it looks like it is custom reporting features. Okay, so we're going to be covering building custom reports, some of the options you have there, and then any additional questions you have on that. So it's going to be at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to be Tuesday, February 26th. And then I believe if we continue forward, there should be, if I'm not mistaken, a Thursday webinar as well. That's an F&I features webinar covering App 1, setting up customized buyer's order print list buttons, and going over the delivery calendar, scheduling and tracking all the deliveries you have set. Okay, so again, that F&I one is on Thursday, February 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and the custom reporting session is on that Tuesday, which is February 26th, same time, 1 p.m. All right, I hope we catch everyone there, and hopefully it can be informative. And if you've got any feedback, let us know. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you, Andy, for your suggestions. They were all pretty much right on the nose there and how that should all be set up. So it sounds like you guys are doing the right thing out there. And if you guys have anything else, feel free to use, I'll use the chat panel here for another couple minutes. Otherwise, thank you all for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.